3. Hello and welcome to another edition of the C-Squared Podcast. Your host Curtis with my co-host Aaliyah, and we are here again, once again, with Kevin Stewart-Panko. And we are here to talk about a very important subject that Kevin deals with all the time. It's important for your band, and it's a hefty subject. So it's the subject of premieres. So to start us off, I'm going to get Aaliyah to start everything off and lead us in the direction of where she wants us to go here.
Well, maybe we could start off by just talking about what is a premiere and what kind of opportunity does it give to a band having these on a website.
Yeah, go.
I could start with this then, because if Kevin doesn't want to. So go
ahead, Curtis. Just so people know what we're talking about.
Well, I kind of have a divided opinion here. So on one hand, I think premieres are great because a lot of bands will not get covered at a place like Decibel, for example, or Metal Injection, those types of places, unless they get a premiere, because sometimes there's just no spot to do a review. I mean, most of the time, I know most of the magazines and the bigger sites, they want to cover the bigger bands first because that's how they drive revenue, and that's what people want to read. So if it comes between, like Revocation and Joe Blow Underground Band, it's going to be Revocation any day of the week for a review. Is that correct, Kevin, before I continue?
For a review?
Yeah, like I'm talking about like that. That's why premieres are good for underground bands, because a lot of times they can't get a review due to that factor right there.
I mean, yeah, I don't know the sort of protocols for other websites.
Yeah. So
it's hard for me to say whether like how Metal Injection or Metal Sucks or anybody, how they do their thing, but I know that the Decibel stuff is basically it all comes down to the writer who's putting that premiere together. So it's like you'll see premieres for bands you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you'll see premieres for bands you've heard far too much of.
Yeah.
You'll hear premieres for a band on their 6th or 7th record, premieres for a band who just put out a demo.
Yeah.
It all depends on, in Decibel's case anyway, it all depends on hitting up the proper or the appropriate person who ends up digging your stuff and is into it enough that'll say, okay, I want to roll with this. It's not limited. I mean, as far as what goes into the magazine, I mean, that's entirely up to someone who's not me, so I can't really tell you.
Exactly. That was basically my point. The writer can dictate the premiere versus usually with the reviews it's assigned.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So basically my whole point on this whole thing is that a lot of times bands will not get covered by a major website unless they get a premiere, which is good. So basically, just to kind of back it up, because I think I kind of bypassed the first part that Leah even asked, is like, what is a premiere? It's basically like, it depends. So some sites want exclusive premieres. So a premiere basically means it's like the first time something goes out. So for example, if Kevin was going to premiere a band tomorrow, technically he would be the first one to have the track go up. So Aaliyah, did I answer the whole question or did I go into a different?
Yeah, I mean, we're just sort of breaching into the topic. Like, yeah. I think that really covers it. Like you said, it's just kind of, if you get a premiere on a site that you may not otherwise get noticed by, that can give you a lot more coverage and exposure than you would have had otherwise. But also, like Kevin said, it's really important to do your research and make sure that if you're an independent band, independently pitching your stuff to writers on websites, it's important that you're pitching it to the right writer who is into your genre of music and that you've done your research in that regard. So then delving into the kind of anatomy of a premiere, there is a section typically where you get an exclusive quote from the band, and that is like, band says about this track. Yes, interjection.
Excuse me, teacher, I have a question or a comment.
Please comment. Am I right?
No, I just wanted to throw in that a premiere doesn't necessarily, it can mean a single song, a video, a full record, an EP. Like it doesn't have to be like a single. I think it was, which is what I think we might have been sort of focusing on when we were saying. It can be anything that a band wants to throw out there first, basically. So Anyway, sorry, go on.
Totally. That's important to note. Yeah. I may have implied that it was something other than that, but yes, single, video, full album, whatever. But yeah, Curtis was saying, and we've been experiencing some issues lately and in all time with quotes from bands. What is like your dream quote from a band to actually feature in a premiere?
Dream. Okay, well, okay, let's back up a bit and sort of say, okay, the way I like to run these things is, okay, I'm gonna go with band X, and we're gonna run their new EP as a premiere. So the way I like to do it, and this is just me personally, and this is another thing too, like different people, writers or whatever, will have different ways that they want to put their posts up. I like to do it where that I say my dumb shit about whatever, a band, their stuff, draw some dumb parallel to entertain myself and hopefully others. And then I like to also not just let it be about me and what I'm writing. I like to sort of say, okay, we asked the band to sort of discuss what we are premiering. Take the floor, guys and gals. Let us know what we're premiering is about from the people who created it. And I think this is what we're just kind of getting towards, because I won't say a lot of time, but enough of the time that it's, we're talking about it now, that I'll ask a band for, a quote or a description about, like, yeah, well, and and as you know, Curtis, I'm really loose about what I will ask from a band. I'll just say,
Yep.
Any part of the process. If you want to talk about like recording the record, the song itself, writing it, whatever, the title, anything, just give me something about this song, video, EP, LP, whatever. And I like this, like I said, I like to say, let them take the floor and tell us about it. And this is, this should be where the people who wrote this song, directed the video, whatever, have a chance to say, all right, this is what it's about. And hey, cool, we're having a forum for us to not just have it be about the music, which ultimately is what it is about. But anyway, and I think that what happens a lot of the time is I just kind of get really shabby quotes that are kind of weak. And I made a joke about it the other day, and it's kind of blown up into a podcast episode. So here we are.
Yeah.
Well, I want to interject here. So I'm not going to name any bands in particular, but we, like Kevin had mentioned the other day, if I may, a lot of times a band will put all sorts of money into a video, make it look all snazzy and nice and beautiful, and then the quote he'll get back will be something like, "This album fucking rules, go listen to it," or something stupid like that.
Yeah, something like, "Yeah, I'll see you in the pit," kind of thing. It's just like sell yourself a little, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Everybody's doing it on every other social media platform. Like, you're pimping yourself out to the world. Like, just take a little bit of time, write something down, whatever. And I don't ask, and this for sure, or for a fact. I say, 100, 150, 175 words. Just give me something.
Yep.
And, I'd say 6-7 times out of 10, I do get something workable, usable.
That much?
But,
wow, I thought it would be like 3 out of 10.
Pretty
well,
good.
Our batting average is like way
good
less.
ratios, like.
Yeah, our ratio fucking sucks compared to that. Like, I've had to get quotes redone. I'm not joking you, 4 times in the past week alone, not just for.
I like the word count approach. I've been telling people like 3 to 5 sentences, but I like the word count approach. I'm going to start using that.
That's actually a really good idea.
And, like I said, it's very open-ended. You know this stuff better than anybody else, so you should be able to express yourself about it somehow. And I recognize that this is probably new territory for a lot of young bands and new bands and bands that are working with PR people.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna like, give people the benefit and doubt and probably say that they're not used to doing something like that. And to be fair as well, I mean, I deal with experienced bands as well who maybe not, I wouldn't say aren't used to it, are probably more sick of it or sick of doing it. So it becomes a thing where it's like, okay, but when you think about it, this is what you people signed up for.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that, but I mean, it's like 99.9% of the time, I'd be willing to bet they asked you, not you asked them. So it's kind of like you're doing them the favor by doing the premiere, is my opinion on it.
Well, yeah, and also I think that what I think some people, and correct me if I'm wrong, like
Sure.
I've thought about this over the years, and I'm not going to single out anybody, but I'm sure you've seen it happen where you start to see a lot of people, or bands I should say, making demands or saying that you get a lot of, we don't want this to be out by a certain date, or I only have this date available, can you do this? So it's like, no, the premiere's, dude, come on, you're a band nobody's heard of and somebody's going to put you on Decibel's website.
Yeah,
I'd be pretty fucking happy if I was still in a band and some dipshit was going to put my dipshit band on Decibel's website because they liked it. I wouldn't start going around, okay, well, that's cool and all, but I'm going to make a demand and say, well, the premiere, it has to be this day because this is what day it's going on live on Bandcamp. It's like,
yeah.
Ultimately, I mean, I hate to be the bearer of honest and bad news, but ultimately, not a lot of people are going to care.
Yep.
So, and I've had this discussion with many people and broken, many sort of hearts. No, maybe not hearts.
Many hearts.
Sorry, what'd you say, Aaliyah?
Broken many hearts.
No, not maybe hearts, but maybe like just sort of shattered expectations, maybe about like what something like that is gonna. I mean, we also had this discussion, what was it, a couple months ago, about like when we were talking about our premieres or whatever, like really as effective as they used to be.
Yeah.
You're rolling the dice with any of this shit, really.
Yeah.
So you should, I don't know, I would be happy. I can only say or express what I would feel if I were in a band and someone was paying attention to us that wasn't related to me, and I'd be like, all right, cool, someone else cares. And I used to be, to go back to like the 90s, I can tell you like a story that predates the internet, but it's kind of related. So I used to, I played in a bunch of bands over the years, and I was in this one particular band with a couple of like kind of like real curmudgeonly grizzled veterans of the Toronto music scene, and they were adamant about not telling people when we were playing shows, because they were like, if anybody's gonna come and see us because we want it to be on our merit and blah 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 blah. And it's like, that's cool and all, but dude, we're playing a shitty bar in Toronto and no one knows who we are. Like, at least invite your girlfriend or something, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
we would have these like just tete-a-tetes about, well, at least tell somebody, because we might as well just play in a rehearsal space if we're not going to tell anybody we're playing a show.
I agree. I do agree 100% on the demands. We've had that too, where it's been like, I remember, I think it was a few months ago, we were dealing with, it wasn't with you, it was with a different writer, and I think it was at Decibel, and the band, they wanted the premiere at, was it at Decibel? I can't remember where it was, but anyways, they wanted the premiere. They only wanted it at this certain date. And again, it was like a debut album type thing. And they only wanted it on that date. We got them the premiere, and then they were upset. It was not the exact date that they wanted. And it was like exact same thing you were saying. I mean, they finally, rolled over on it, and they began to see the logic on it. But at first it's like, well, why can't they do this? Well, the writer only has that one day available, right? So
yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do for you? You're nobody, right? Like, I didn't say that, but.
Well, I mean, whether you're nobody or not, this is something that bands are going to encounter throughout their careers. Like I've been reading a couple of band biographies lately, and there's all kinds of stories about labels shifting release dates on people.
Yeah.
Delaying an album because they wanted to make money off a previous release to sink into, and then so something got delayed 6 months, and by that time it was like all the momentum had been killed. And then you have something like COVID, which, that just added 2 years to everything. So, there's going to be a lot of hardship and heartbreak and all that kind of stuff when it comes to not getting things exactly the way you want, when you want, and how you want. And yeah, it sucks. And yeah, I hate to tell people it sucks, but it sucks. But you just kind of have to, like with anything, roll with it, roll with the punches, do the best you can with what you have, basically. And yeah, I guess
Yeah, I mean, we actually just did a little ranting episode about entitlement a little while ago, and it's interesting how it kind of applies to the situation as well. It just, the bands that you see being most praised and loved throughout time are always the people that don't act entitled. Not always, but almost always the people that don't act entitled and people who are flexible and roll with the punches. And so
I think part of the thing too, though, I just to play devil's advocate a little bit here, looking at it from the musician's aspect, is like, I mean, it's their baby, and I can kind of understand that they want to have it by a certain date. I understand it, but at the same time, it's like, for the PR person
it's so
and the
funny
writer,
that you apply it to biological pregnancy, because you also don't get to pick when your biological baby.
True. That is 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 a very good point. I never even thought about that. But thank you, Aaliyah.
Good one. Very good.
That is true. But granted, you'll know roughly when it's going to arrive. Usually, not always. Sometimes it's early. Sometimes that's true. That's true.
Exactly. And
That's
you
true.
know what? You got to roll with it.
You do. That is very true. But anyways, I can kind of understand that viewpoint, because I mean, it's their creation, not their baby. I'm going to take that part back. And they want to be in control of it, so I can kind of see that. But at the same time, most bands, when you explain to them, like, for example, like if I wanted to, like if someone said to me tomorrow, I would really like a premiere at Decibel, band hasn't even announced the album, and there's no release date yet. And if I said to them, you have no shot in hell, because for example, Kevin's booked up through, I think you said November. I know Sean's booked up through November or something like that. And I think one other writer I spoke to is the same way. So if they said that to me, I would be like, you have no hope in hell. You have to move the release date. And if they got demanding on me, I probably wouldn't take them to the client. But anyways, Kevin, do you want to comment a little bit further on that?
I was going to, well, I had a couple things. I was going to say about the entitlement thing.
Yeah.
In your guys' minds or eyes, is that do you think that's a generational thing or an experience thing?
I want to hear Aaliyah's viewpoint before I say.
Well, I've definitely seen people who are older be entitled and younger be entitled. So I don't think it's a generational thing.
Okay.
I think it's something else. I don't know if it's an experience thing either. It might just be a personality trait thing.
You know what? It's
Class.
essentially, as soon as it came out of my mouth, I thought to myself, well, think about it this way. It's like, okay, it might be a generational thing because just the younger generation and entitlement. It might be an experience thing because when you're like, say for example, band has a trajectory that kind of goes like this and then kind of goes like that. When they get to this point, they're so used to something like this that it's like, damn, man, like, they kind of either subconsciously or not act like proverbial rock stars, I guess, because they've been treated like that in the past.
I think it depends on the person, though.
Sorry.
I have a viewpoint that I think it depends upon the person, because I've seen people that are very experienced and been around for a long time who are super easy to deal with, super flexible. But then I've reversely seen people that have been around for a long time, and they expect, to be treated like God, like you said. But it also happens to people that are new. So I don't know if it's necessarily a generational thing or even an experience thing, because it's hard to say. Like like we did a campaign for Sarah Jezebel Diva, who was, you know, she was in Cradle of Filth. She sung on so many classic albums. Easiest person in the fucking world to deal with. Just easy.
Right.
She should be fucking demanding shit of us all the time and just being like a total diva. But she's, you know, you explain stuff to her. She goes, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, works for me. And, you know, but she's been around like, what, since 96, 95, something like that, and on all these classic albums. But reversely, you'll take a new band who has no experience, might be demanding to have their premiere on a certain date. This happens this way. They want to read all the copy, correct everything in the copy, even though you have no grammatical mistakes, but insist you do. Da 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 da. It's hard to say. Sorry, Leah, I cut you off.
No, you did not.
Okay. But yeah, just to get back to that for a second, like, I mean, the entitlement, like we've also had bands do it, like, just like I said, where it's like, you know, they get a press kit written for them, perfectly worded, but then they want to change the entire thing, you know, change the grammar, change everything. And you tell them and you're like, dude, this isn't going to work. It's not going to fly with the reviewers. They're not going to like it. They won't want to open the kit or read or listen to music. Do it anyways. So I don't know what to tell you, Kevin.
Man, if you think, I mean, if some of these bands think that this is an issue, just wait till they have to start dealing with management companies. Jesus Christ.
Even fodder.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started.
Now I just realized we're almost at the 25-minute mark, or 20-minute mark rather. So
yeah, we are, but we've still got plenty of time to work here.
I'm just telling you, Leah. Just telling you.
We could dive into the management thing for a second if you want.
Oh boy, don't. Kevin's gonna go off for like hours. I can feel it.
No, I mean, I'm not going to go off on anybody in particular. I'm just saying that when you get into management, you're dealing with, it's the same formula when you talk about, you know, the more, what is it? Too many cooks in the kitchen or whatever it is. Like, it's that it's just another layer of people you have to deal with who have their own personalities and demands and issues and wants and this and that. And sometimes, you know, I don't know, sometimes, well, you know, you play what is it? The phone call game where you like
telephone. Telephone.
Yeah. You see, and by the time, you know, stuff isn't exact. Musicians aren't exactly the greatest at communicating, you know, on the best.
That's why they write all their lyrics in poetry. Then
exactly.
You know, communicate clearly.
You know, let's be honest here, man. There's a lot of spectrum activity out here in the arts world, and a lot of that has to do with, like, there's just some communication issues. And I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not saying I'm like some high and mighty friggin' Steve Flynn from Atheist, who's actually got like a master's in communication. So, you know, he knows the deal. I'm just saying, like, you know, a lot of stuff gets lost in translation or doesn't get conveyed properly or the way it was. So I mean, I'm just saying, like, when you start adding stuff into that, a band that's sort of like frustrated now with like little thing like this is in for a world of hurt if they think that, you know, however many years down the line, assuming they even get that far, that they're not going to have to deal with this times a million as they go on. And I mean, like anything, it's like, you know, whether it's you're playing music or whether you're working a shitty job or a great job, even, it's like, you know, you have to kind of, like we were saying in the beginning, you got to roll with the punches, or deal with what you have and make something of it, I guess, or be flexible and stuff like that. So
I wanted to bring something up because Aaliyah is currently the only active musician here. I don't think Kevin's active or has been for a while. So so Aaliyah, just out of the curiosity, so for being flexible as to date, so like let's say that your band, let's say you wanted to release, let's do a video, since we had the video thing happen before. So let's say, how would you work it out if, like, let's say, for example, Kevin agreed to do a premiere for your band video sight unseen, we'll say, just because he heard the track in 3 months.
Right, sure.
So what would you do in that case if you were like running behind or something like that? Just out of curiosity, I'm giving a scenario here just to see how you'd roll with it.
Well, that's like a delay on my part. That's not.
No, I know, but what would you? How would you deal with it though? Just like if something like that happened. So I'm trying to give people advice. So I'm asking someone who could potentially be in that position at some point.
Well, if you're running behind, you communicate with people and let them know
Okay.
how far you're running behind. Try to estimate how far you're running behind. Try to be precise with that. And yeah, just know that if you change things, then things might change on you. Like your deals might fall through and your premieres might fall through if you can't deliver on time. So I don't know, does that answer the question?
I think so. Cool. Because I
Is
wanted
that
to
what
say,
you were fishing for?
well, sort of, but then I wanted to ask Kevin. So then Kevin, how should a band best handle it with you then if that happens in like, not her case specifically, but I'm just saying, like, the band you agreed to do the premiere for, they had a video coming up. It's in like 2 months or something like that. You know, the band, good band, but now they can't deliver, and they found this out 3 weeks ahead of time. So what should they do with you if something like that happens?
What should they do? I don't know. I mean,
Just tell you they're fucked up, that they got to move the
yeah,
date,
you
or
know, just people, shit happens, man. I mean, I'll do what I can to accommodate if it's stuff coming in at a later date, or if like stuff is going to be down to the wire. But
Yep.
I mean, as much as it seems like it's a big deal because we're talking about it, and I know that people, invest a lot of time and money and energy into this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to minimize it by saying it's not that big a deal, but in a way it isn't, because stuff can be moved around. And and maybe this is just my naivete, but I'm still, firmly of the belief that the coordination that labels and whatever try to do with release dates and having this, lead into this amount of time, lead into this, and the single coming out, and the second single coming out, and then the third single coming out, and then the album. I mean, to me, it's sort of like, I mean, I'd be okay. And I've said this before to you guys. I'd be happy if I was in a band that sold consistently, like, however many numbers of records, or however many, whatever the metric is these days, consistently over the course of a year, as opposed to, we did all this stuff, blew our load on release day, and then no one cared after a week. You know what I mean? Like, it's having something that come out on a specific day because your release date is great, I guess, if you're like Metallica, Slayer, Exodus, whoever, but if you're, what was the name of the band you had? Joe Blow Thrash Band? Is that what you said earlier? Yeah. If you had Joe Blow Thrash Band, like, like, it's not going to make that much of a difference. Sorry. Like, you can still promote at the same level, whether your premiere or whatever gets aired at Metal Injection on March 18th, and then Decibel on March 31st.
Yep.
And your release date is April 2nd, but then something fucks up and your second premiere has to show up on April 17th. It's like, really? It's not that big. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm a bit, like I said, maybe I'm a bit naive about these kinds of things. I've never actually had to do it on the opposite end of the musician side of things and having to time and coordinate this stuff. But maybe I'm just a more inquisitive music fan, where it's like, okay, well, if I stumble across something, I'll keep it in the back of my mind and want to check it out. I'm not just going to forget about something. I mean, I will in my old age, but I'm not just going to forget about something because it's not in my face all the time. You know what I mean?
Well, just to add to that, on the PR end, I always want to schedule personally, but I mean, if it needs to be moved.
Well, of course you do, because you have a schedule and everybody, but I'm just saying, like I said, shit happens and stuff get moved around, and it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. Well, we've had that, like, something happens. It's like, they got to move the date, and it's like, oh, we got to move the date. What are we going to do? We send out an announcement. It's moved. That's it. It's not a big deal. Like, who fucking cares?
It'll give you time to do a better quote.
Exactly. Or better quote, or you can do better, or you can, you can set up your pre-sale. You can set up your pre-sale, something, right? So there's always, like, there was some major bands during COVID. They had to move, and they had to do it many times. So nobody died, right?
Wow.
Nobody. Okay,
not because of album dates.
Not because of the album. No, yeah, that was poorly worded, but you guys know what I meant. But anyways, like, a good example was when we had Chris from Under Oath on. He was telling us that they were supposed to release their album, I think it was in November, And then they got told, I think it was like 3 weeks before the release date, that their vinyl wasn't going to be ready for another 3 or 4 months. So they just had to, they had to roll with it. And I mean, that's a major band and it happens,
Yeah, I was interviewing someone recently who were talking about how, so one of my standard questions when I do interviews these days, because it's relevant to everybody, is how was your new release affected by COVID, and in what way? Because every album that's going to come out for the next year and a half is affected by this shit somehow. And they were saying that it wasn't so much the writing and recording that was affected. It was, once they were done, it was the weight that they had to sort of keep in mind or accommodate for vinyl manufacturing. And this is a band that's on Metal Blade. So they were talking about the release of their record, which is coming up soon, I guess September, maybe October.
Now I'm
They
gonna
were
have to
talking
Google who
about the
this
release
is.
of that in fucking January. And it's like, that this is the kind of stuff you have to sort of be aware of and be able to sort of say, okay, well, we're going to have to deal with it. There's nothing we can do about this massive backlog of manufacturing. And you can't, your whining and complaining isn't going to get you to the front of the line, right?
Not going to do jack shit.
Usually, no.
Yeah. Aaliyah, we are probably running out of time, I'm thinking, but
Yeah,
if you want
just
to
to
keep going,
wrap
it's
things
fine.
up, Kevin tried to bring it full circle by saying maybe that'll give you time to write a better quote. So just to wrap things up, you're a writer. One of your expertise, one of your areas of expertise is writing.
One of my areas, put it that way.
So can you give a few quick tips for bands to help them write a better quote for a feature?
No, you know what? There isn't even, I wouldn't even say that I'm looking for anything in particular. All I'm asking is, okay, I guess what I'm asking and offering at the same time is I'm giving bands, artists, whatever, this open-ended space to say, to basically discuss what people are going to be listening to, watching, whatever, probably for the first time. Anything about it, I don't care. I mean, you can be funny, you can be serious, you can be like pedantic about it, you can talk about like, how many minutes it took to write the song, and what fucking gauge string you used on your guitar. I don't care. I mean, as long as there's something in there about what we're talking, what's on the table.
Fair enough.
I got something when Kevin's done.
I'll be done. I'll let you talk, because
okay, I got a good example.
I think I'm just sort of talking in circles at this point.
So here's how I like to do it. This is what I've been doing recently. Talk about what the song is about. Talk about the recording process if you want. Talk about the theme of the album, if it's an album, whatever, right? Just talk about maybe the influences of the song, anything you want to say, because the one common complaint that I get from bands is that the writer does not fully understand the music, or they had got a different idea from it than what they had intended, like basically what Kevin was saying. So this is your opportunity to say from yourself, in a non-salesy way, I want to point out, because sometimes bands will then do a fucking commercial where it sounds like they're fucking selling cars or something like that. Just in a non-salesy way, from the heart, say what it's about. Like Kevin said, if you want it to be goofy, totally cool. Just do like 3 to 4 lines from the heart, saying exactly what the song is about, or your influences, or something to make it interesting so people will want to read and the writer does not get a misconception of the song or album. That's my two cents.
That's a very good point, because I'm going to guess, like you said, people have said that, writer X doesn't see the music the same way. And you know what? You're going to get 100 people in a room listening to it. You're going to have 100 people hear it differently and come up with whatever. And, admittedly, like I said, when I sort of map these premiere things out, my personal go-to is to like just write something that makes whatever connection in my own head between whatever I'm hearing and whatever I'm just, whatever's
Yeah.
rattling around in my brain. And it's not always going to be super serious. It's not always going to be spot on. And 9 times out of 10, it probably isn't.
Yep.
But that's my reference point. And like you said, if you want to even, if you want to put it this way, set that writer straight, make him look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Him, her, whatever.
Yep.
Make him look like an idiot.
Yep.
Make him like make him rethink what he thinks about your music. I don't know.
Well,
I have no idea, man. I'm just, it's, to me, and I think this is where my frustration is. Maybe it's because I write so much about stuff.
Yeah.
That to me, it just seems easy.
Yeah.
I don't see what the big deal is, but maybe it's not as easy for other people. And maybe that's where there's a bit of disconnect, because this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is what I've always done since I was a little kid. And it just kind of natural to me. Like when I was in a band, I wrote all our press, like bios and press releases and stuff. And it wasn't, some of it was serious, some of it wasn't, some of it was just complete horseshit. But it just came out of me. So I did it. And maybe, maybe that's why people play guitars instead of, sitting on
Maybe that's why.
keyboards.
Yeah. Writing a compelling short piece about your album, quote, or whatever can be difficult, but hopefully today's podcast has helped you guys, the listener, have an idea of what you can put in your quotes for features. Kevin, thanks for coming on again. Great talking to you as always.
I was also going to say something. I mean, this quickly, this also is going to sort of manifest itself, or it's going to be something that's going to be like expanded upon when these bands, as they grow, start doing email interviews, because they're going to have to like write more about themselves than the piddly 150 words that I'm asking of them. So, if you want a take-home message, I guess one of the take-home messages is get fucking used to it.
Yes.
Yep. Get used to it. And if there's nothing else, I'd go ahead and wrap things up. And until next time, everyone, make like a bull and throw those horns up.